Chapter 882. Alex smiled before he said, "Don't worry. I'll just give it my all and ask them for help. Who knows if someone will agree to help me? They are much more powerful and more capable than we are, so they'll definitely have stronger connections and contacts than we do. Perhaps they'll be able to figure out what happened to Mom." Emma breathed a sigh of relief and she said gratefully, "Alex, thank you so much for everything." Alex smiled as he said, "Silly girl. I'm your husband, why are you being so polite to me?" As he spoke, Alex patted her gently on her shoulder before he said, "Let's go down and have dinner first, okay? After dinner, I'll go out and look for some of my friends to see if they would be willing to help me. If they aren't willing to help me, then I'll beg them for help. No matter what it is, I promise to bring Mom back home safely." Emma nodded repeatedly and she felt a lot more comforted and relieved at this time. Before this, Emma always felt that she was the only one in the family who cared about her mother's disappearance. However, now that Alex was standing with her so resolutely and since he was so willing to help her, she naturally felt much more relieved. Alex could not help but feel very sorry and distressed for Emma at this time. He could tell that Emma had really been very worried about Elaine's disappearance throughout all this time. If he did not bring Elaine back as soon as possible, Alex was afraid that something bad would happen to Emma before Elaine even met with any major incidents in the detention center. Therefore, he decided to implement the plan that he had come up with tomorrow. He had already figured out a plan so that Elaine could be released from the detention center the day after tomorrow. After comforting Emma, Alex brought her downstairs to the dining room. Trump and Nat Arya had already prepared a table full of dishes in the dining room. At this time, Viley was standing aside as he opened one of the precious and valuable Kwai Chow Mutai aged liquor. When he saw Alex and Emma walking down the stairs, he hurriedly asked, "Mr. Anderson, would you like to have a drink with me?" Alex smiled slightly before he said, "Okay, I'll accompany you and have a drink or two with you tonight." Emma quickly reminded him in a low voice, "Aren't you going out to look for your friends after dinner? You shouldn't be drinking now. Otherwise, you won't be able to drive later." Alex smiled before he said, "It's okay, I'll take a cab out after I drink." Since this is the first time Viley is coming to our house as a guest, it would be rude of me not to drink with him. When Emma heard Alex's words, she nodded slightly before she said, "Okay then. As long as you won't be drinking and driving." At this time, Trump walked out of the kitchen with a pot of minced chicken soup before placing it on the dining table. When he saw Emma, he smiled before he said, "Oh, Emma. You really have to try all the dishes that your Aunt Nat Arya has prepared. I've secretly tried a few of the dishes just now and I can tell you that her cooking is simply amazing." Emma did not have any appetite to eat at all, especially since this meal was prepared by her mother's love rival from back then. Therefore, she did not even want to eat anything at all. However, since she had to be polite and give her father face, she could only sit down at the dining table. At this time, Nat Arya took off her apron before she walked out of the kitchen with the bowls and chopsticks in her hands. When she saw that Alex and Emma were already at the dining table, she smiled before she said, "I'm sorry for making all of you wait for so long for dinner to be served." After that, she looked at Alex and Emma before she said, "You must both be hungry by now, am I right? Why don't you pick up your chopsticks and try some of the dishes that I've made?" There were all sorts of home-cooked dishes from South Haven on the dining table and they were all cooked and prepared by Nat Arya. There was steamed fish in vinegar sauce, braised shrimp, braised pork belly, stewed fish head with bean curd, sautéed eel and prawns, and so forth. The presentation and looks of these dishes were really amazing, and they looked just like the dishes prepared by the professional chefs at the restaurants. Nat Arya could not help but feel a hint of regret as she said, "There was originally another stir-fried shrimp dish that is my specialty. But we did not pay much attention to it when we were busy in the kitchen and it got burnt. I can only cook it for all of you again next time." As she talked about the stir-fried shrimp, Nat Arya suddenly thought of the scene when Trump suddenly hugged her in the kitchen and her cheeks started to flush red immediately. chapter.